Fired for being late, she discovered a hidden truth: her amazing act saved the billionaire's son. Emma's heart sank as she watched her manager's lips move, the words "you're fired" echoing like a death knell. This was the 5th time her late arrival had cost her a job. She fled the restaurant, her uniform clinging to her like a shroud, her chest tight with frustration. A waitress was expendable, easily replaced. But a mother? That identity weighed heavier, more consequential. How would she explain this to Lucas? How would she provide for him now? Every hour spent balancing plates was for him, to build a future they both could thrive in. The moment she lost that was the moment her hopes evaporated. As she hurried past skyscrapers and busy diners, the bustling city felt like a cruel reminder of her failures. She couldn't shake the gnawing disappointment that crept into her thoughts, whispering doubts and fears. What was it going to take to finally do something right? To be someone worthy of Lucas's admiration? With each step, she felt less like the force of nature she had once known herself to be, and more like a shell slipping away. As she entered her small apartment, the hum of defeat draped over her like a heavy cloak. She happened upon a dusty memory box tucked in the corner. Her father, an underappreciated scientist, had poured his untold dreams into its contents. She hesitated, fingers trembling as she wiped dust off the lid. Inside, she discovered papers filled with plans for renewable energy innovations. His vision sparked something inside her, a flicker of defiance that pushed her down memory lane. If only she had paid more attention when he was alive. The passion he had for his work, the ways he envisioned changing the world, it all felt within reach again. But just as she began to immerse herself in his forgotten legacy, chaos erupted beyond her window. The sirens blared and voices crescendoed outside. Emma's heart raced as she stepped out, only to find concerned families flocking to a nearby lake. It was there that Tyler, the son of a billionaire, had gone missing during a camp trip. Panic swelled among the crowd, mothers clinging to their children, all eyes searching desperately. She felt a pull, a connection, something threaded between her role as a mother and the sudden urgency these families were now experiencing. Before she could think, the decision took hold of her. With a rush of adrenaline, she dove into the frigid water, the shock wrapping around her like icy fingers. Each stroke fought against the waves and her own limitations. Fear clawed at her mind. But there, beneath the surface, she spotted a flash of color: Tyler's bright orange shirt. Willing her body to push forward, she reached him, grasping him in an embrace of instinctual, powerful resolve. Breathless, she pulled him to safety, and as chaos morphed to relief, a connection forged, two lives intertwined by chance. Emma's heart surged. This was her moment. But as praise and attention began to filter through with each passing hour, she felt a wave of anxiety crash over her. Scrutiny came with the spotlight. The world that praised her would also pick apart her story, which now entangled her father's forgotten legacy. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The media attention descended upon her like vultures to a carcass, and while she began to share her father's ideas amidst newfound recognition, an anonymous letter appeared. Its message hinted at a secret that could unravel everything she thought she knew about him, a shadow hanging over her triumph. In that fleeting moment, doubt seeped back in. Could she fulfill her father's footsteps, or was she headed for another fall, just as dizzying as the last? As she braced herself for the community gathering, ready to reveal her findings, uncertainty flooded back. Was she a hero or merely an imposter, waiting to be exposed? Emma stood at the edge of her small living room, the weight of the anonymous letter heavy in her hand. Its implications churned her stomach, a vortex of anxiety swirling within. Every moment of recognition she had gained since rescuing Tyler felt layered with the suggestion that her father's life had perhaps been a facade, veiled in obsessions and unfulfilled dreams. If she was to honor his legacy, would she be doing so from a foundation of lies? The memory box still lay open on her table, its contents now seemingly tainted by doubt. She had initially viewed her father's ambitions as a lifeline, a way to connect with him now that he was gone. But what if those dreams were rooted in failures he had only kept secret? What if striving for the same ideals brought about her own downfall? A knock on her door jolted her from her thoughts. It was Tyler's mother, Barbara, her eyes glistening with gratitude as she stepped inside. Concern mingled with the admiration radiating from Barbara, and Emma felt a pang of guilt pierce through her. How could she accept this praise when her own history was precarious? "Emma, thank you for being there for Tyler. You saved him," Barbara said, her voice shaking slightly. Emma smiled weakly, unsure how to accept the compliment. "I just did what any mother would do. I couldn't sit back and watch." Barbara took a step closer, her demeanor shifting. "You have no idea how much courage that took. You're stronger than I am, and I admire that." In the midst of her own identity crisis, Emma felt a new fire ignite within her. Perhaps this was not a moment of deception but a pivotal opportunity to embrace the courage she wanted for herself and Lucas. Suddenly, she felt the passion for her father's work wash over her again, albeit with renewed clarity. If her father had dreamt of changing the world, what if she could carry that flame forward? "I must confess," Emma hesitated, gathering the strength to share her thoughts, "I discovered some of my father's plans. They're visionary. But there are so many questions I have. I wasn't sure if I could." "Maybe this is your moment, Emma," Barbara interjected. "Don't let doubts hold you back. You have already proven that you can tackle the impossible." As they spoke, each word exchanged propelled Emma towards a decision. She would delve deeper into her father's legacy, not out of fear of scrutiny but out of a newfound desire to transform them into something tangible. The community gathering loomed ahead, and rather than seeing it as a stage for her potential exposure, she could view it as an opportunity. Perhaps she could become the voice for her father's forgotten dreams while carving out her own path. But the letter tugged at her mind. Who had sent it? What were they trying to hide? She couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning, a prelude to more revelations that could shift everything she had just begun to reclaim. As the gears of her thoughts turned, Emma began crafting a plan. She would investigate the origins of the letter and connect the dots back to her father's work, relentless in her pursuit of the truth. With renewed resolve fueling her steps, she realized that facing the uncertainty ahead was no longer something to dread. It was an invitation to transform her life, to finally become the force she had longed to be. The upcoming gathering would be her first step toward re-establishing control. But beneath her determination lingered the ever-present query: what secrets lay in her father's past that she might not be prepared to handle? With her heart pounding and a relentless sense of purpose kindling inside her, Emma realized that whatever path lay ahead would demand both perseverance and courage. She would not only confront her fate but potentially expose truths that could alter everything. This time, she was ready. As she moved towards the door, ready to face whatever reality awaited her, she couldn't shake the sense that the true challenge loomed just beyond her grasp. What was hidden in her father's legacy that could threaten to unravel everything she strived to build? The revelation of secrets felt imminent, and there was no turning back now. Emma stepped outside, determination stitching together the frayed edges of her resolve. The air was crisp, invigorating, filled with the scent of autumn leaves resisting their inevitable fall. Each footfall echoed against the cobblestone path leading to the local library, where she intended to begin her search into her father's work. With the letter hidden away in her mind, she was momentarily shielded from its dark implications, allowing her focus to shift toward the promise of discovery. Stepping inside the library's warm embrace, Emma inhaled, savoring the familiar perfume of old pages and wood polish. Between the shelves, she could feel the lingering presence of writers and thinkers, urging her toward enlightenment. She made her way to the archives, where her father's projects might still linger in dusty folders and faded documents. As she sifted through the clutter, Emma's hands trembled. With each piece she uncovered, it felt like a scavenger hunt, a search for the truths hidden beneath her father's aspirations. Was it naive to believe in the sanctity of these dreams, she wondered? Each blueprint, proposal, and handwritten note painted a portrait of ambition. Yet, as she flipped through the documents, she couldn't help but feel an unsettling dissonance. What had once seemed noble now echoed with a haunting emptiness, hinting at her father's possible delusions. Lost in her thoughts, she nearly missed the knock on the doorframe. It was Evelyn, a seasoned journalist and an old acquaintance of her father's, walking toward her with an inquisitive expression. "Emma, it's been a while. What brings you here?" "Evelyn. I am looking into my father's projects," she replied, her heartbeat quickening under the weight of her next words. "I found something strange, an anonymous letter suggesting there's more to his legacy than I thought." Evelyn's interest piqued, she leaned in. "What kind of letter?" "You know, if someone's trying to distort your father's memory, you're going to need evidence to counter it." Emma felt a rush of adrenaline, the prospect of an ally invigorating. As they began discussing her findings, Evelyn's probing questions ignited Emma's curiosity. Each inquiry pushed her further down the rabbit hole, challenging her assumptions and nudging her toward deeper revelations about her father's initiatives. If he was working on something risky, it's likely that someone in the industry would want to suppress information, Evelyn suggested. "You may want to talk to his colleagues or anyone involved with these plans." The idea struck Emma as both a challenge and an opportunity. Digging for truth was not merely about validating her father's legacy, it was about carving out her own narrative from the remnants of his unfulfilled dreams. "I will," she stated firmly, resolve lining her voice. Each day became a building block in her newfound quest. Emma reached out, re-establishing connections with those who once collaborated with her father. She listened carefully, absorbing the nuances of their conversations. Layer by layer, she unearthed details that overshadowed her father's public image, his struggles, his fears, and the secrets he had buried deep within his ambitions. Yet, as the pieces of her father's past began to fit together, a more profound realization sparked within her. She discovered something about herself through these difficult conversations. Her father had wanted to change the world, and now, amidst shadows of doubt and truth, she felt that same desire unearthing itself within her. With every piece of information collected, Emma's sense of agency crystallized. She was no longer just a daughter consuming her father's dreams, she was a woman ready to unveil the intricacies of those dreams and challenge the narratives surrounding them. Returning home, her heart surged with passion, the letter forgotten in favor of the new purpose she had discovered. But just as she felt a surge of clarity, a surge of doubt crept back in. Could she truly handle whatever secrets her father had left behind? And as she prepared for her next meeting with one of his former associates, an unsettling question loomed larger: what if her investigation exposed a truth even darker than she imagined? The past beckoned ominously, leaving her on the precipice of revelation, unsure where the journey would lead her. As Emma approached the towering figure of the former associate, Thomas Reed, a sense of apprehension tingled at the back of her mind. The cafe where they would meet was a dimly lit reprieve from the bustling streets outside, offering a false sense of comfort. She reviewed her notes 100 times, but nothing could quell the rising tide of doubt within her. When it came to her father's legacy, emotions intertwined tightly with every word spoken, every memory recalled. Sitting at the table, Emma fiddled with her coffee cup, her gaze darting to the entrance more than once. Knowing that her father had trusted this man filled her with conflicting emotions. The door opened, letting in an unwelcome rush of wind and her own racing heartbeat as Thomas stepped through. "Emma," he greeted with a nod, slipping into the seat across from her. The sharp angles of his face held years of experience and the burdens of decisions that likely weighed heavily on him. "Your father spoke highly of you." "Thank you," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I've heard a lot about you, too." I wanted to discuss some of his work, the projects he was involved in. He leaned back, a subtle invitation for her to continue. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the backlash of emotions stirred within her. "I've discovered some things recently that suggest there might have been complications." Thomas studied her, his expression unreadable. "Complications come with the territory in our field," he remarked with a hint of resignation. "What are you getting at?" "The letter I found," Emma began, her heartbeat thumping in her ears. "It suggested that your collaboration with him." She hesitated. "Wasn't he as straightforward as it appeared?" "Letters can be misleading," Thomas replied, a trace of defensiveness creeping into his voice. "Or revealing," she countered, a flicker of determination igniting within her. "I need to understand what he was involved in, what you were involved in." "If there's a risk of suppression or Emma," he interrupted, his tone shifting, now stern. "Your father was a dreamer, a man who aimed for greatness but struggled with reality. Sometimes, those dreams are dangerous." A pause enveloped them, broken only by the distant clatter of dishes and muted conversations. Gathering herself, she pressed on. "But that doesn't justify leaving those who believed in him, believed in his vision, in the dark. I need clarity, for his sake and my own." The air grew heavy with tension. To her surprise, Thomas's demeanor softened. "Your father had enemies, Emma. Powerful people who wouldn't hesitate to take measures to ensure secrets remained buried. I had my reservations about what?" she demanded, leaning forward. A burgeoning bolstering of confidence pushed her past her initial hesitations. Not all of his projects were clean. He was attempting to disrupt systems that favored a select few. "That kind of ambition breeds animosity," he revealed quietly, his eyes scanning the cafe as if threats lurked among the patrons. Emma absorbed this, the weight of his words settling heavily upon her. She realized that unraveling her father's past would mean facing not only uncomfortable truths about him but also confronting those who opposed his vision. "Then what are you afraid of?" she challenged him. "If you believed in his work, why not make it right? Why not help me?" "Because belief doesn't remove the consequences," he admitted, his hands clenching into fists. "To go down this path could endanger your life." With her heart racing, Emma faced the gnawing question, was pursuing this clarity worth the risks? Was she prepared to fight battles her father had started but was unable to finish? The cafe bustled around them, a world oblivious to the storm brewing at their table. As she gathered her thoughts, Thomas's eyes pierced through the haze of doubt, igniting a determination within her that she had never accessed before. "Help me," she pressed, the urgency of her plea reverberating through the air. "Before it's too late." His gaze held hers, a silent struggle playing out as he weighed his options. Emma's pulse quickened, she was on the verge of understanding something beyond herself. "What if I agree?" he finally asked, an edge to his voice that hinted at the consequences of that agreement. Emma straightened, courage flowing into her voice. "Then we take this journey together. No more shadows. I won't turn back, and I won't hide from whatever truth awaits me." The resolve in her tone trembled against the reality of her decision. As she laid the foundations for her next move, the intoxicating promise of discovery mingled with the chilling fear of potential danger. What lay ahead was unknown, but she felt that the shadows of the past were calling, preparing to collide with an uncertain future. Determined to confront whatever came next, she met Thomas's questioning gaze and went forward, knowing the choices made now could alter the course of their lives forever. Would he take the plunge into the murky depths of her father's ambition alongside her? The question loomed large as they sat in that cafe, the boundaries of their journey yet to unfold. The silence stretched painfully, thick with unspoken fears and possibilities. Emma held Thomas's gaze, a fire igniting in her stomach. Each breath she took felt like a declaration. She wasn't just her father's daughter, she was capable of standing on her own. Let us start with the projects, she insisted, feeling the clock ticking beneath the strained silence of their meeting. How many were kept from the public? What exactly did he aim to change? Thomas sighed, the corners of his mouth tightening as though the weight of her questions bore down on him physically. He had ambitious plans, a few that could have flipped the industry on its head. But ambition attracts scrutiny. There were two major endeavors, one involving technological innovation with the potential to disrupt financial systems. The other. His voice trailed off, and uncertainty flickered across his features, heavy with regret. What was the other? The urgency in Emma's voice surprised her. She wasn't merely pushing for answers, she was demanding them, unwilling to allow Thomas's hesitations to deter her. There was a project focusing on renewable energy solutions, he finally revealed, the admission seeming to tear from him with difficulty. But it had a darker side. There were dealings with entities that were less than reputable. Your father got caught up in them, and soon after, he pulled out, fearing for your safety. The truth hit Emma like a cold gust of wind. So, what you're saying is that he left me in the dark to protect me? She couldn't help the bitterness that seeped into her words, realizing just how isolated his protection had made her. Thomas shifted uneasily under her scrutiny. He wanted to shield you from the consequences of his decisions, but if I'm going to carry on his legacy, I need to know everything. Emma interjected, the frustration boiling over. She clenched her hands tightly around her cup, the fractured porcelain whispering her simmering rage. I can't build anything on lies or avoidance. Seeing her resolve, Thomas leaned in, the sharpness in his demeanor softening slightly. Fine. If we do this, you need to understand the risks. Those enemies we spoke of? They won't hesitate to silence anyone who threatens their interests, including you. I'm not afraid, she declared, though internally, her mind skittered dangerously between confidence and doubt. How could she claim she wasn't afraid when she felt as if the ground was shifting beneath her? A noble stance, he replied, somewhat taken aback by her tenacity. But fear keeps us alive, keeps us cautious. Then I'll be cautious. A steely determination coursed through her. I want to confront them, not cower in fear, Thomas. I need your guidance, but you need to be all in. His brow furrowed, and she could see him wrestling with the gravity of her words. You could lose everything, the life you know, the security you feel. Are you truly prepared for that? Because once we breach this wall, there won't be a turning back. What did she want? The question echoed in her mind, shifting her perspective. Safety at the cost of truth? Or the dangerous march toward the unknown, where clarity awaited her? I want to honor my father, she finally confessed, her voice tinged with newfound strength. The truth matters more than any facade. Let us reveal what happened, remind the world that his vision didn't die with him. As the last words left her mouth, a palpable shift seemed to occur in the cafe. It was as if they had stepped beyond the mundane surroundings into a realm of possibility. With every moment that passed, Emma felt herself shedding the weight of her old identity, experiencing something transformative. What you're proposing changes everything, Thomas said, a note of awe lacing his voice. It may not just affect us, it could cause ripples throughout the industry. Are you truly ready to bear the consequences? I've spent too long in the dark, Emma replied firmly, looking directly into his eyes. The truth is my only compass now. Help me seek it. The words hung in the air, and for the first time, Thomas appeared to recognize her as an equal, a partner. A smile crept onto his face, an expression that held both admiration and apprehension. Then let us get to work, he consented. We need to start tracing the threads of your father's projects, find who holds what information. If we're diving into the depths, we'll need to swim swiftly and carefully. Adrenaline pumped through Emma's veins as she grasped the magnitude of their journey. The shadows of her father's legacy loomed large, yet within them lay an opportunity for redemption. As they left the cafe, the uncertainty of the outside world faded into a promising horizon of discovery. Her heart raced at the thought of what revelations awaited them. But as she stepped onto the rain-slicked sidewalk, an invisible weight began to settle on her shoulders. What if pursuing the truth unspooled secrets best left buried? Would the knowledge empower her or consume her? Their quest had begun, but the reality of consequences lingered menacingly in the periphery. The fine line between discovery and destruction was about to be tested. In the depths of it all, one shocking thought pierced through her mind: what if uncovering her father's truth means awakening powerful adversaries? The morning sun filtered through the curtained windows, casting patterned shadows across Emma's desk. She sat, determined, with a flurry of documents strewn around her, remnants of the previous night's brainstorming session with Thomas. The walls of her small home office, once mere decor, now buzzed with energy and purpose. They had set out to unearth her father's buried ambitions, but beneath that tremor lay something even deeper: her own ambition, her desire to forge a path, to redefine her identity beyond her father's legacy. Emma ran her fingers over the papers, each letter echoing her father's voice, a mix of hope and caution. The projects, she murmured to herself, both could have changed the world. And then, the darker implications twisted her stomach. Her father's fear resonated within her, but it was no longer paralyzing. Thomas's words echoed in her mind: the enemies lurking in the shadows, the threat they posed. She had been sheltered for so long, but that safety now felt like a weight. A safety that had kept her in a stupor rather than allowing her to grow and evolve. She thought about her life, her stagnant dreams, merely running a family business she didn't care for. Now, she had a chance to ignite a revolution, a chance to create something transformative in her own right. What was she built for, if not this? The thought jolted through her. Fueled by curiosity and a fierce resolve, she honed in on the first lead. They had contacts linked to her father's energy project, the one entwined with questionable allies. She needed to move fast, but the undercurrents of fear were difficult to shake. Taking a deep breath, Emma picked up the phone, her pulse racing as she dialed a number Thomas had given her. The man on the other end was a former associate of her father, someone who might hold secrets woven into the fabric of that project. After a few terse moments, an appointment was set for later that day. Him? You're going to meet with him alone? Thomas had raised an eyebrow when she told him. This could be dangerous. He might be the key, Emma shot back. I won't miss this opportunity. I am ready to take risks now. As the hours passed, anticipation buzzed through her. She dressed with care, conveying strength in her attire, choosing a fitted blazer that represented her newfound identity. It was more than just clothing, it was a shield against uncertainty. In front of the mirror, she rehearsed her approach. Confidence cloaked her nerves. Arriving at the cafe where they would meet, she felt the buzz of the outside world, the chatter almost triumphant as she navigated through the throngs of people. This was her stepping into the arena. She scanned the seated patrons, seeking the man she had yet to identify. It was a room full of potential allies and hidden enemies, a labyrinth of interactions waiting for her to unravel. When he arrived, she felt a chill simmer beneath her skin. The man was charismatic, but there was an edge to him, his demeanor sending warning signals. They exchanged superficial pleasantries, but each sentence felt charged with implications. The stakes felt higher, the air thick with tension. What do you really want? He finally asked, piercing right through her facade of calm. His eyes searched hers, as if testing her resolve. Emma's heart raced as she wrapped her mind around her next words. The truth was a slippery thing. It could either connect them or sever the tenuous thread they were barely hanging on to. I want to know everything about my father's projects, she declared, her voice steady, including what went wrong. His gaze softened, considering. The moment hung suspended, a choice looming before them in the crowded cafe. But what she couldn't shake was the lingering sense that this man was double-edged, his truths might come wrapped in deception. In that split second, she realized this was more than just a quest for information. It was her confrontation with the past, a challenging mosaic of betrayal and ambition, and now she was a part of it. Could she continue to push forward, knowing the consequences might lead her to territories uncharted, relationships forever altered? As the conversation unfolded, snippets of previously hidden truths began to emerge. But pieces of the lurking darkness crept closer. She felt the remnants of her father's enemies weaving back into the fabric of her life. At that moment, she understood, the harder she pressed for knowledge, the more she risked digging into past shadows. But perhaps it was necessary. Perhaps this was the only way to reclaim her identity and her father's legacy, and to reshape a future free from the chains of secrecy. Yet as the man leaned in, whispering the next revelation that could shatter her preconceived notions, a sudden panic gripped her. What if this was just the beginning of a larger scheme? A shift in her gut signaled that the confrontation she feared was imminent, a confrontation not just with the shadows of her father's past, but with her own capacity for courage. The key decision loomed: was she truly prepared to forge ahead, or would she let fear reclaim the role she fought to escape? The words hung dangerously, demanding action. Emma took a steadying breath, her mind racing. This was the moment that could redefine everything. What awaited at the edge of this darkness? A new beginning, or the awakening of her father's greatest adversaries? Emma sat across the table, tension coiling in her chest as the man leaned in closer, his voice a hush, almost conspiratorial. As he spoke, her mind raced to piece together the fragmented information he imparted. Details about a conspiracy her father had been ensnared in swirled through her thoughts. It didn't end badly because of him, the man claimed, it ended because of them. Her instincts flared a mixture of skepticism and a tantalizing hint of revelation. Them? She echoed, probing deeper. She needed to navigate this delicate terrain carefully, steering the conversation where it needed to go. The stakes felt monumental, suspicions lingering like shadows between them. He offered a knowing smile, but the warmth of it didn't reach his eyes. "Those who saw your father as a threat," he replied slowly, and he was. The ambitions he had, they could have disrupted a lot of powerful interests. With every word, Emma felt both the thrill of illumination and the creeping horror of responsibility. The revelation hit hard. This was no mere family history lesson. This was a warning sign of something larger, an undercurrent of danger that could threaten not just her mission but her very existence. As the conversation progressed, she started to sense that revealing too much of her own knowledge could risk losing this crucial ally. Still, the knowledge that her father had been more than a businessman struck her like thunder. He had been a visionary, but visions often attract foes. "What do I do now?" she asked under her breath, the weight of her inquiry hanging thick in the air. "Protect yourself, Emma. Few friends linger in this scrum." "You're playing a dangerous game, but it's only just begun," he replied cryptically, pulling back from their charged exchange. His words drilled into her mind, a stark reminder of her own vulnerability. Suddenly, an amalgamation of emotions churned within her: the confusion of betrayal, the urgency of ambition, and the flicker of resolve ignited by the reality that change lay in her grasp. "What do you mean by just begun?" she pressed, leaning forward. "What are you not telling me?" He regarded her closely for a moment, weighing the price of honesty against self-preservation. "The players in this game are already shifting, and you need to be aware of the ones that won't think twice before silencing you. It's a fine line you walk, bringing to light the past while defining your future. Are you willing to walk it?" Emma's heart thudded in her chest. She was standing at the precipice of something monumental. This wasn't just about her father's unfinished legacy. This was about lifting the veil on a shadowed history that had more to do with her than she'd ever known. "I'm ready for it," she affirmed, surprising even herself with her declaration. "Then take one step further," he urged, his voice low, each word tinged with significance. "The next move is crucial, and I can give you names, but you have to promise me you won't lose sight of who you are amidst the chaos." One final glance at her reflection in the cafe window reminded her of what she stood to lose and gain. This was no longer just a pursuit of her father's ambitions, it was an odyssey into her own identity. She was an architect now, crafting her destiny amidst the ruins left behind. As she stood to leave, a resolve flooded her veins. A landscape of possibilities unfurled, and with every action, she sought to erase the ghosts of uncertainty shadowing her father's name. The man would provide the names he promised, but she had to ensure she was ready for what came next, aware that every revelation was a double-edged sword. Her instincts kicked into gear. She had to make her next move. She needed a strategy, one that incorporated deception if necessary, but also defined principles she wouldn't compromise. A confrontation bruised just beyond her immediate grasp, as doubts already loomed. Could she dance on the edge of integrity while clawing forward for the truth? As Emma stepped out of the cafe, invigorated yet acutely aware of the thin line she walked, a name echoed in her mind. She needed to track down one more figure intertwined in her father's past, a person who could either stand by her or throw her deeper into the abyss. In that moment, she grasped the reality. The confrontation with her father's adversaries was imminent, but perhaps the toughest opponent she faced would be the creeping darkness within herself. As she navigated the bustling street, her path forward lay in reclaiming her father's legacy, but this would not come without a fight. Was she prepared for the truth that came with it, or would the enormity of what she might uncover tear her apart? The shadows of the past loomed ever closer, whispering the name of the next person she needed to confront, a figure intricately woven into the story she was desperate to untangle. Emma walked briskly along the crowded street, the autumn chill biting through her coat as it wrapped tightly around her. Each step resonated with determination, yet uncertainty flickered at the edges of her resolve. The name Dr. Richard Hale played over in her mind like a relentless drum. He was the missing piece, the thread that could unravel or fortify her father's legacy. Her phone buzzed, an alert flashing on the screen. She hesitated before reading the message, a slew of reminders, all mundane, but one caught her eye. It was a connection request from an old acquaintance of her father's, an invitation from Hale's renowned institution for a public lecture on ethics in business. This was no coincidence. She could dive into his world without raising suspicion. There were no more accidents, every detail had turned significant. But the idea of infiltrating a space filled with intellectual heavyweights rattled her. What if suspicion arose? What if Hale wasn't who she believed? Emma pushed the thought aside. Every moment she hesitated could be pivotal. She had rallied herself to push beyond the shadows. This was an opportunity, a chance to confront the man at the nexus of her father's fate. As she entered the grand auditorium later that evening, the aura of academia enveloped her, a mix of polished floors and whispered conversations. The warmth from the chandeliers contrasted the coolness she had just endured, creating a sort of sanctuary that made her feel both small and elevated. She observed the attendees, their faces lit by anticipation, their minds brilliantly engaged in discourse. Yet, a deeper part of her gnawed at the facade. This was not only about knowledge, this was about power and influence. Among the assembled crowd, Emma's heartbeat quickened as she spotted Hale. He appeared engaged, his sharp eyes gleaming with enthusiasm as he discussed ethical implications with a group of young scholars. A sudden jolt of fear threatened to undermine her resolve. Was she truly prepared for what lay ahead? Or would the magnitude of the truths she sought bury her alive? As the lecture commenced, Emma absorbed every word. Hale spoke of moral fortitude, the importance of creating a just world, yet his rhetoric felt hollow to her. How could he espouse such values while his shadow lingered over her father's downfall? Her emotions surged. This was her chance to counter the polished narrative he portrayed. When the lecture concluded, she weighed her options, calculating the risks as she moved toward Hale. Each step felt laden with purpose. Would he remember her father? Would he be surprised to find that his legacy haunted her? As she drew closer, she rehearsed her approach, searching for a natural entry into their conversation. "Dr. Hale," she initiated, her voice firm yet tremulous, "I'm Emma Chase. My father often spoke of you to me, you were a trailblazer in your field." He turned, surprise knitting his brow for just a fleeting moment before his expression shifted to one of charm. "Emma Chase," he echoed, a hint of recognition dawning on him. "Your father truly was an ambitious man. It's been years since I have heard his name." His words triggered a mix of emotions, nostalgia and nausea. "He left behind unfinished work and ambition," she deftly inserted, her determination hardening. "I'd like to know what you really thought of him. It's time we finally clarify his legacy." Hale's demeanor shifted subtly, the charming facade losing its luster. "There are complexities, Emma. Your father was not the wide-eyed visionary he liked to present himself as. His ambitions created ripples, significant ones." Emma inhaled sharply, captivated by the truth hidden within his insinuation. Was he blaming her father or acknowledging the forces that had conspired against him? What were those ripples, exactly? Were they left to drown others? He paused, weighing his words carefully. "Ambition can be a double-edged sword. It inspires but also alienates," he replied cryptically, his gaze unyielding. She sensed he was not disclosing something vital, a guarded piece of the puzzle that could connect the dots between her father's legacy and the shadows looming large over her investigation. Suddenly emboldened, Emma shifted tactics. "You were a gatekeeper of sorts, weren't you? Keeper of secrets. What if I told you that the truth matters far more than preserving the status quo?" The tension between them became tangible, fraught with unspoken challenges. She realized then, this was about more than familial loyalty. This was a confrontation with systemic complicity in the lives of those drawn into their web. Hale, sensing her resolve, seemed to reassess his stance on her. "Be careful, Emma," he finally warned, a warning whisper cloaked in underlying respect. "The truth has a way of consuming those who seek it." With his words, a strange kinship ignited between them, but Emma could not discern if it was born from understanding or fear. A new determination hummed within her. Confrontation wasn't merely desired, it was essential. Tomorrow would bring more questions, but also the raw possibility of answers. As she left the auditorium, Emma recognized that each step forward would challenge not just her preconceptions of loyalty but her own definitions of integrity. Could she navigate the depths of deception and betrayal while standing firm in her ethics? As she stepped onto the deserted street, the chill deepened, mirroring the reckoning ahead. She hadn't just uncovered a hidden truth, she had engaged the idea of her own survival, a battle not just against others but within herself. The confrontation with Hale only cemented her resolve. The next leg of her journey would demand clarity. What would it cost her? Would she find the courage to delve deeper into her father's past or retreat to the safety of ignorance? The die was cast, and she was now irrevocably a part of a game far greater than herself, a game that had only just begun. Emma awoke the next morning with the weight of the previous evening pressing on her chest like a heavy cloak. The words of Dr. Hale echoed in her mind, a ghostly revisitation of truths unspoken and implications lurking in silence. She stood by the window, staring out at the golden leaves spiraling down to the ground, their descent mirroring her spiraling thoughts. Clarity felt elusive, and yet she knew one thing: she couldn't allow fear to paralyze her any longer. She had to confront the narratives woven around her father and disentangle truth from deception. Her phone buzzed, a message from her assistant, reminders for the day's schedule swirled like familiar noise, but she ignored them for now. Today would be about more than meetings or mundane tasks. Today, she was going to delve deeper into the layers of her father's legacy, beginning with the subtly fraught relationship he had with Hale. What had he truly meant by ripples? Emma's thoughts simmered as she made her way to the library her father frequented. It was a quiet sanctuary filled with shelves of neglected books and whispers of long-forgotten stories. This was where she would gather the pieces of her father's life that could shed light on Hale's convoluted remarks. She could almost hear her father's voice guiding her as she combed through the archives, his favorites, the highlights of his career, and the contentious publications that may have marred his reputation. As she read, she stumbled upon a publication that seemed more like a sharp dagger than a light-hearted discourse on ethics. It critiqued the very institution Hale represented, painting it in shades of moral decay and elitism. Her heart raced as she digested the implications. This was a direct confrontation with the forces leading to her father's decline. Had Hale played a role in silencing dissent, in protecting his reputation at the cost of her father's ambitions? Determination surged within her. Emma could no longer linger at the margins, she had to be proactive. Reaching for her phone, she began to type a message to Hale, inviting him for coffee to further discuss the complexities of her father's legacy. This time, she would be the one to set the narrative. As she hit send, she could feel the adrenaline pumping through her. The response came faster than she expected. Hale agreed, suggesting a quaint cafe not far from where her father had once lectured. It felt almost poetic, two legacies converging, the living and the lost within the confines of a steaming cup. Arriving at the cafe, Emma's nerves fluttered as she replayed her plan in her mind. Each question she molded would serve as a tool not only to unearth Hale's intentions but to assert her own agency in this conversation. Was he to be an ally, an antagonist, or perhaps both? Hale arrived on time, his polished exterior belying the shifting currents of the past. As they settled into their seats, she caught an almost imperceptible flicker of concern in his eyes as they locked in on her. She was no longer the daughter obscured by her father's shadow, she was an active participant activating her agency. "Thank you for meeting me, Dr. Hale," Emma began, honing her voice into a sharp focus. "I came across some of my father's earlier writings recently. I wanted to discuss your thoughts on them, especially the aspects you hinted at last night." Hale's expression hardened slightly, a warning flickering like a candle about to extinguish. It was time to peel away the layers. Every guarded glance and every carefully chosen word could reveal more than he intended. "Your father had strong opinions, Emma, but opinions can be detrimental. In this world, we often disguise our truths to protect our interests." His answer was cryptic but revealing. Emma's thoughts raced yet again. Was his cryptic caution a reflection of genuine concern for his reputation or simply self-preservation? Could she direct this conversation toward more explicitly revealing motives? "Was that your stance when you distanced from him?" She pushed, each word carefully calibrated to bait a response. "Was it about protecting your interests or your reputation?" Hale's gaze sharpened. "Emma, legacy is fragile. You need to understand how carefully one must tread in these conversations. It's not just your father's work that's under scrutiny, it's the narrative itself. The layers of meaning twisted around them, the tension palpable." It was becoming evident that Hale had much more to unveil. The truth was like a coiled serpent, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Suddenly, a realization surged through her. Was uncovering this truth worth the cost of exposing herself? Emma's heart raced as she grasped the pivotal moment. The battle was shifting, and her fight was no longer just for her father's memory, but for her own identity, to emerge not as someone defined by others' shadows. As their conversation continued, she felt a quiet resolve harden within her. Whatever lay ahead, betrayal, revelation, or something unnameable, she was ready to confront it. And now, more questions than ever crowded her mind. What lengths was Hale prepared to go to protect the secrets of the past? How deep did the shadows cast by her father's legacy reach? She tuned into the possibilities with every nerve in her body, sensing that they were inching closer to something explosive. Could she navigate this labyrinth of history and find her way through screens of deceit? The stakes were rising, and so was the urgency for answers. Emma leaned in, ready to steer the conversation into the depths they both needed to traverse. What would she uncover when the layers began to unravel? Emma leaned into the cafe table, her determination coiling tighter as she faced Dr. Hale. The delicate porcelain cup between them seemed like a fragile truce, waiting for the potential fracture of unspoken truths. With each passing moment, the atmosphere thickened, charged with the weight of legacy and the anticipation of revelation. "You mentioned that legacy is fragile, Dr. Hale," Emma began, her voice steady. "But isn't that why we need to confront uncomfortable truths? My father's life was shrouded in ambiguity, and it's time we unearth those layers not just for him, but for those of us left in the wake of his ambitions. A flicker of hesitation crossed Hale's face, betraying his internal conflict. Did he recognize the deep-rooted resonance of her words? You believe uncovering the past will bring clarity? He challenged, his voice taut. Sometimes unearthing truths can provoke those who would prefer those truths remain buried. Then you are admitting there are truths worth unearthing, she replied, refusing to back down. If your concern is for my safety, know that I've stepped into this journey knowing the risks. Every shadow I uncover fosters my independence while defending my father's legacy. I won't shy away from what needs confrontation. Hale regarded her with a mix of respect and caution, his facade cracking just enough for a glimpse of the man beneath. Your father had the ambition to truly disrupt, but ambition can attract danger, Emma. You may find paths leading to powerful adversaries, and they won't hesitate to silence you. I'm not afraid of the past, she insisted, steel in her voice. What did he stumble onto that made him a target? Was it the project on renewable energy? What truly happened? For a moment, silence hung between them, the weight of her question pressing heavily in the air. Hale's expression softened, a signal of reluctant trust forming. That project, it could have changed everything, but it threatened existing power structures. Your father didn't realize when he began it that he was stepping onto a minefield. A desperate flicker of vindication ignited within Emma. That's precisely why what you say matters. We can't allow that potential to die with him. It must be revived, even if it risks the anger of those powerful enemies. Hale leaned back, contemplation weaving over his features. You have spirit, Emma. But reshaping the narrative of your father's legacy may lead you into darker waters than you ever anticipated. Then let us navigate those waters together, she declared, feeling a rush of empowerment surge within her. What do we need to do to unravel those complexities? To reveal the truth? His gaze pierced hers, weighing the implications of her query. First, you should understand that the work itself isn't finished. There are contacts, direct ties to those who stand to lose from your father's ambitions being revived. And I am not the only one here armed with knowledge. Emma felt as though he held a key to the door of her father's legacy. Who else knows? Where can we begin? Hale took a breath, the tension slowly easing into that of a collaboration. There's an underground network of scientists and activists connected to your father's vision. I can outline the route, but the point of entry must be subtle. We need to approach carefully and without overt hostility to maintain credibility. With each moment, her resolve crystallized. Then that's precisely what we'll do. We'll seek them out, dissect the obstacles they face, and together, we'll craft a plan to push against the forces threatening the vision. Hale nodded, a hint of approval flickering across his face. But you must tread lightly. The moment powerful interests sense your resurgence is the moment they may act against you. They're likely already observing your every move. Let them observe, Emma retorted, a fierce light igniting in her eyes. I have spent too long feeling beholden to the narratives others created for me. I am reclaiming my story, my father's story. The air was electric as they sealed their alliance, ready to face whatever. Shadows lay in wait. When they finished their coffee and stood to leave, Emma felt a transformation surge through her, a fierce independence rising, not just as Emma Chase, daughter of a dreamer, but as Emma Chase, warrior of ambition ready to engage in the battle her father had started. As they stepped into the crisp air, a visceral thrill coursed through her. This was the beginning, a path forged in truth and purpose, driven by the will to rise above inherited shadows. She looked towards Hale, her heart pounding with anticipation. Let us unite those voices, those hidden networks, and push forward. We're rewriting this narrative, one truth at a time. In that moment, Emma secured her role not only as a harbinger of her father's legacy but also as the architect of her own future. The specter of doubt began to fade, eclipsed by a vision for what lay ahead, an unveiling of both past injustices and a reclaiming of her agency. With every step taken alongside Hale, Emma resolved to confront the truth and those standing in its way. They would light the fire of her father's ambitions, one bold act at a time. As she embarked on this transformative journey, she felt the winds of determination at her back. This was a fight for truth, not just for her father, but for every dream deferred, every legacy silenced. And with that burning fire ignited within her, Emma Chase was ready for whatever challenges awaited in the depths of the quest for justice. Was it possible that by unveiling the truth, these shadows would become not a source of intimidation but a catalyst for empowerment? In the battle to reclaim her family's legacy, she felt certain this was more than just resolution, it was transformation. Emma knew in her heart she would no longer be a victim of her past but a champion of a future where truth and ambition intertwined. Now it was time to act, launched into the fray with unwavering purpose. No longer just a pawn, she was determined to be the queen, reclaiming a legacy, fearlessly moving toward a brighter narrative for herself and for her father's dreams. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support future content. Comment your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. This is the moment to show your support.